Welcome to Story Planet, where every tale is a journey, and every journey brings new wonders. Tonight, we invite you to get ready for a trip to France, a land of beauty, culture, love, and timeless charm. Join Sandra on her Paris adventure. She's a dreamer, ready to explore at last. Wander charming streets with her, taste delicious food, feel the magic and love by the Eiffel Tower. So, pack your bags for a cozy bedtime journey. A dream of France, a middle-aged woman's journey to Paris. For as long as Sandra could remember, her heart had been captivated by the thought of France. It wasn't just the idea of traveling to Paris that stirred her. It was a deeper pull, a longing for the culture, the food, the history, and the romance that seemed to spill from every story and film about the country. In the quiet corners of her home, nestled deep in the countryside, Sandra would find herself dreaming of walking along the Seine, tasting fresh pastries in a small patisserie, or hearing the melodic sounds of French as it drifted through the air. Over the years, those dreams had grown from fleeting fantasies into something more substantial, a vision of herself truly living in France, absorbing every inch of its beauty and immersing herself in the timeless elegance of its culture. She had spent years imagining this, saving for it, planning for it, and now, as she stood at the edge of that dream, about to set off on her long-awaited journey to Paris, it all felt so real, yet still so surreal. Sandra was not a young woman anymore. She had lived a full life. She had seen love, loss, laughter, and change. Her heart was wiser now, perhaps more patient, but the yearning for Paris had never dimmed. If anything, it had grown stronger with age. She wasn't seeking the Paris of quick tourist visits or rushed itineraries. No, she longed for something slower, something deeper. She wanted to walk the streets, not as a visitor, but as someone who knew them well, to live and breathe the city inch by inch, to let Paris become a part of her in ways she had always dreamed. The flight across the ocean was long, but it was filled with anticipation. Sandra watched the clouds roll by outside the window, her thoughts drifting through the scenes she had imagined for so many years. The Eiffel Tower, standing tall and proud against the skyline, the narrow streets of Montmartre, winding like a maze of history and art, the cafes filled with the smell of freshly brewed coffee, the chatter of locals, and the warmth of buttery croissants, fresh from the oven. When the plane finally touched down at Charles de Gaulle Airport, Sandra felt a flutter in her chest, a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Was she really here? Was she really about to step into the world she had longed for? As she collected her luggage and made her way through the airport, the familiar hum of French filled the air around her. She let the words wash over her like music. Even though she only understood some of it, the language itself felt like an invitation, welcoming her into a new life, a new adventure. Sandra's apartment was located in the Marais, a historic district known for its charm, its beautiful architecture, and its vibrant energy. When the taxi pulled up in front of the building, she couldn't help but smile. The stone facade was weathered and worn, the windows framed with wrought iron balconies overflowing with flowers. It was exactly what she had hoped for. A small but elegant place that would be her sanctuary in the heart of Paris. As she opened the door to her apartment, the smell of fresh wood and lavender greeted her. The sunlight poured through the large windows, casting a golden glow across the cozy living room. The floors creaked gently beneath her feet as she walked inside, and Sandra felt a wave of peace settle over her. This was home, at least for now, a place where she could let her dreams unfold, one day at a time. On her first morning in Paris, Sandra awoke to the soft light of dawn spilling through the curtains. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the distant sound of birds chirping and the occasional hum of a passing car. She lay in bed for a moment, savoring the quiet, before the city fully woke up. She had no particular plans for the day, no tours or appointments to keep. She simply wanted to experience Paris, to let it reveal itself to her in its own time. After a leisurely breakfast of fresh fruit and bread, Sandra dressed in her favorite scarf and comfortable shoes, ready to explore. As soon as she stepped outside, she was greeted by the vibrant life of the Marais. The narrow streets were lined with boutiques, cafes, and galleries, each one filled with the subtle charm that only Paris could offer. The smell of freshly baked bread and roasting coffee drifted through the air, mingling with the sweet scent of flowers from the window boxes that adorned nearly every building. Sandra's feet carried her toward the Seine, where the morning light danced on the water like 1,000 sparkling diamonds. She found a small cafe on the corner, tucked away from the main streets, where she ordered a café au lait and a buttery croissant. Sitting outside at a small table, she watched as the city came to life. Parisians passed by, moving with a kind of effortless grace, their conversations lilting in the breeze. Sandra savored each bite of her croissant, the warm, flaky pastry melting in her mouth, and sipped her coffee slowly, allowing the moment to stretch out and fill her with contentment. The hours slipped by in a peaceful blur as Sandra wandered through the streets of Paris. Every turn revealed something new and beautiful: a hidden garden, a small bookstore, an art gallery filled with paintings that seemed to speak of love and longing. She felt like a part of the city, as if Paris itself had welcomed her into its fold, offering her the chance to live her dream with every step she took. In the late afternoon, as the sun began to cast a golden glow over the city, Sandra made her way toward the Eiffel Tower. She had seen it countless times in photographs, but nothing compared to seeing it in person. As she approached, the tower loomed before her, its intricate ironwork reaching toward the sky like a symbol of everything Paris represented: elegance, beauty, and timelessness. Sandra stood at the foot of the tower for a long moment, taking it all in. The crowds around her seemed to fade into the background as she gazed up at the structure that had captured her heart for so many years. It was more than just a monument. It was a reminder of her own journey, of the years she had spent dreaming of this place, and the courage it had taken to make that dream a reality. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the tower lit up, its lights twinkling like stars against the darkening sky. Sandra found a spot on the Champ de Mars, the grassy park that stretched out before the tower, and sat down to watch as the city slowly transitioned from day to night. Around her, people were laughing and talking, enjoying picnics and taking photos. But Sandra was lost in her own thoughts. She felt a sense of peace settle over her, a quiet contentment that came from knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be. The Eiffel Tower continued to sparkle into the night, its soft glow casting a warm light over the city. Sandra stayed there for hours, watching as the tower's lights shimmered and the stars appeared in the sky. She didn't want to rush the moment. She wanted to savor every second, to let it sink into her heart and stay with her forever. The days in Paris passed like a beautiful dream, each one filled with the simple pleasures Sandra had always longed for. She spent her mornings in cafes, sipping coffee and watching the world go by. She wandered through the gardens of the Tuileries, where the flowers bloomed in every color imaginable, and the sound of fountains filled the air with a sense of serenity. She visited the Louvre, where she stood before the Mona Lisa, captivated by her enigmatic smile, and lost herself in the halls of the museum, wandering through centuries of art and history. But what Sandra loved most about Paris wasn't the famous landmarks or the tourist attractions. It was the everyday moments, the way the sunlight filtered through the trees in the park, casting dappled shadows on the ground. The sound of laughter drifting from a nearby cafe, where friends gathered to share stories over glasses of wine. The smell of fresh bread baking in the boulangeries as she passed by, the aroma wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Sandra made friends during her time in Paris, too. There was Claire, the local artist she met on her second day in the city. Claire had a small studio in Montmartre, where she painted scenes of Paris in soft, romantic hues. She invited Sandra to join her on walks through the neighborhood, where they wandered past the old windmills and artists sketching in the square. They spent hours talking about art, love, and life, and shared meals in small bistros where the food was simple but full of flavor: freshly baked bread, creamy cheese, and rich, hearty stews that warmed them from the inside out. There was also Henri, the elderly man who owned the bookstore on the corner near Sandra's apartment. Henri had lived in Paris his entire life, and his shop was a treasure trove of old books, each one filled with stories of the city's past. Sandra would visit the bookstore nearly every day, and Henri would share tales of the writers and artists who had once called Paris home. He spoke of Hemingway and Fitzgerald, of Picasso and Modigliani, painting vivid pictures of a time when the city was alive with creativity and passion. As the weeks passed, Sandra found herself falling more deeply in love with Paris. It wasn't just a place to visit, it was a place to live, to experience, to savor. She had always dreamed of coming to France, but now that she was here, it felt like she had found a piece of herself that had been waiting for this very moment. The city had a way of slowing down time, of making her feel like she was truly living in the present, without the rush and pressure of the outside world. One of Sandra's favorite routines became her evening walks along the Seine. As the sun began to set and the city's lights flickered to life, she would make her way to the river's edge, where the water shimmered with the reflections of the buildings and bridges. She loved the way the city transformed at night, taking on a soft, romantic glow that made everything feel even more magical. On one such evening, as Sandra strolled along the river, she noticed a small group of musicians playing near the Pont Neuf. The sound of their violins and accordions filled the air with a sense of nostalgia, and Sandra couldn't help but stop and listen. The music was hauntingly beautiful, and as she stood there, the Eiffel Tower visible in the distance, Sandra felt as though she were a part of something timeless, something that had been unfolding long before she arrived and would continue long after she left. Paris was like that, always changing, always the same. It was a city that held its history close, but also embraced the present with open arms. And Sandra had found her place in that rhythm, living her dream inch by inch, moment by moment. As her time in Paris began to draw to a close, Sandra found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She had come to France with a heart full of dreams, and now those dreams had come to life in ways she had never imagined. Paris had given her more than she ever thought possible. It had given her peace, joy, and a sense of belonging. But more than anything, Paris had taught her the beauty of living in the moment. It wasn't about rushing from one site to the next or checking off a list of experiences. It was about savoring each second, each breath, and letting life unfold at its own pace. Whether she was sitting in a cafe, wandering through a market, or watching the Eiffel Tower light up the night sky, Sandra had learned to truly live, to embrace the beauty of the present, and to find joy in the simple things. As Sandra packed her bags and prepared to leave the city that had captured her heart, she realized that her journey was just the beginning. Paris had taught her that life's greatest joys come not from grand destinations, but from experiencing the world with an open heart. It isn't about traveling to far off places. Sometimes the magic is in the town next door, the hidden corners of your own neighborhood, or a quiet cafe down the street. Wherever you go, whether it's across oceans or just a few steps outside your door, there is beauty to be found, stories to be shared, and moments to be cherished. Sandra had learned that every place, every culture, every new experience is a gift waiting to be unwrapped. The world is full of different foods to taste, new people to meet, and peaceful nights to spend in places you've never been. It doesn't matter how far you travel. What matters is the way you experience life, savoring each moment, embracing new adventures, and finding peace in the simple act of being present. As you lay down tonight, dreaming of distant lands or the joys of discovering something new just around the corner, remember to carry that sense of wonder with you. You don't have to go far to find beauty and connection. Let your heart guide you to new experiences, no matter where they are, and live each day with the curiosity and joy that Sandra found in her journey. And if you could feel the magic of Paris, the taste of the croissants, and the glow of the Eiffel Tower in Sandra's story, consider sharing this journey with your friends and loved ones. Maybe they too will feel inspired to explore new places, near or far. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, for more beautiful travels and stories that will take you to places yet undiscovered. Good night, sleep well, and may your night be filled with gentle journeys, where every adventure brings you calm and every stop offers a place of peace and rest.